Senate accuses governors of stalling constitution review process. Bayelsa National Assembly caucus seeks help for flood-ravaged communities. And later on the program,
lives have been lost, properties have been lost, and then access to a source of living is lost.
We'll hear from Honorable Frederick Agbedi on the Bayelsa floods and how the constituents are coping. You're watching the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adeoye. It appears the process to review the 1999 Constitution has been stalled by the State Houses of Assembly to legislate on the document. The Conference of Speakers say they will consider the bills only if the National Assembly passes 4 proposed bills, which includes the establishment of state police.
It is legally and constitutionally inappropriate for the Conference of Speakers to use the 4 bills as a quid pro quo to act on the 44 bills the National Assembly has transmitted. It is clear, and we cannot overstate, that this letter is not in keeping with the obligation the Constitution has placed on them. No doubt some state governors have worked tirelessly to turn the Conference of Speakers and some state assemblies into political puppets, thereby undermining and delegitimizing the legislative institution at the state level. This interference has been ramped up, especially in opposition to the bills granting financial and political autonomy.
Check the history of thuggery in Nigeria and also insecurity. How do we actually empower political thugs to now become bandits and even become Boko Haram? Check the history very well. And clearly, our position is we are not matured for that. If a state governor can deploy political thugs for peaceful protests, you should know that if he has state police, he will do worse than that. And so this process was very transparent. And I think we should realize all of this. And Nigerians also will have the opportunity to speak to those issues. This is why it's important for the process to be very transparent. If people have forgotten, we have not forgotten. It's well documented. Before 1999, we don't have Boko Haram. We never had bandits. We never had thuggery. How do we have them? And how do they acquire arms? Can all of these people acquire arms? The answer is no. Who empowered them? Still the political elites.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives has stepped into the dispute between the federal government and foreign airline operators over their $700 million trapped funds in Nigeria. Now they have agreed on a quick response from the government to release these monies.
Airlines today have blocked access to direct booking by anybody on their system. And I'm saying this from personal experience.
In the bilateral air service agreement between the foreign airlines countries and Nigeria, there is a clause there for both of us, both countries, in a bilateral way, that each country will support the airline or the other party in the repatriation of their funds.
Unfortunately, due to antitrust and anti-competition policy of Emirates Airline and a conflict of interest issues, I'm not in a position to discuss in this forum about details of backlog issues. However, we are open for one-on-one private discussion on this matter.
Resolve whatever issues there are, because you're all in business, and business has to move on, but business cannot move on without funds. You are breaking the CBA regulations, and we've also appealed to you to revert to status quo, and that we're looking into the matter. Once that is done, it gives us more motivation to try and assist.
The Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs seems to be in trouble over allegations of attempting to divert 480 billion naira. Now the Senate has summoned him and will make him answer to questions surrounding fraud and the controversial removal of the sole administrator of the NDDC.
In order for the current minister, Umana Okot Umana, to attend to this petition, this particular press briefing is an official invitation that a petition has been received against his office. And the title of the petition is Petition Against the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Umana Okon Umana, on plot to loot Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC for selfish gains and non-inauguration of the board of the NDDC board, and plan to replace the sole administrator, so managing director, with another interim managing director. A call for Senate to save the soul of Niger Delta region.
The Bayelsa National Assembly caucus wants President Muhammadu Buhari to declare a state of disaster emergency in the state. They have also sent out a distress call to the federal government and other relevant agencies to provide urgent help for residents in flood-hit communities.
Bayelsa is severed from the rest of this nation. That is the most important factor why you need to declare Bayelsa a disaster emergency. No other state is completely cut off from the rest of Nigeria except Bayelsa, and that's the reality on ground. Maybe after our governor's comments, there was a release from the presidency as to ordering that all necessary agencies that can bring succor in this situation should quickly mobilize and ensure that they attend to the sufferings of Bayelsas.
Joining me on the program is a seasoned politician representing Nigeria's oil-rich region, and he is a lawmaker representing Sagama Ekeremo Federal Constituency. He is Honorable Frederick Agbedi. It's good to have you on the program, sir.
Thank you. Great pleasure to be with you this morning.
Thank you. We'll delve straight into the matters now, and we'll begin with the flood situation that is currently ravaging many parts of the country. Your region, inclusive Bayelsa State. Tell us, let us feel the pulse of the people in your region. What is it like?
It's terrible, so devastating. It's mind-boggling, heartbreaking, and it's unimaginable. Yes, we are from a riverine territory. We are used to the water environment. But of course, when something is beyond your own normal experience, you know, you get so dumbfounded. I can see how really devastated our people are, particularly in the Niger Delta area, particularly the communities that are in the freshwater area. Those in the ocean areas, the mangrove swamp areas, are not as affected as the communities in the freshwater area. As we speak, Bayelsa is inaccessible. It's severed from the rest of the country and the rest of the world, which is so unfortunate. And you can tell the kind of challenges that can pose to both government and the people. Houses are submerged, lives have been lost, properties have been lost, and then access to source of living is lost. Whatever you had as a source of living is completely eroded, devastated, and then access to even welfare in terms of wanting to purchase food items, medical items, from other parts of the country to the state is a very major challenge. So for me, it is first to empathize with the people, not only Bayelsa, across the nation and across the world. The flood is not just in Bayelsa, not just in Niger Delta, not just in Nigeria. There are other parts of the world that are also experiencing. But like I will always like to say, the Bayelsa situation is very peculiar. Peculiar because the state is severed from the rest of the country and the rest of the world. And that is what makes it even a lot more difficult. I really sympathize with my governor, His Excellency Governor Doyedili, who has been on his toes from the moment that the devastation took place. His own house is underwater, his community is underwater, my house in my local government is underwater, my house in which I reside in Yanagwa is underwater for over a week now. And so everyone is an IDP as it stands now. and that is why we have always called on, the federal government and our agencies, on international donors, nations and organizations to come to the aid of Bayelsa.
But these floods do not just happen out of the blues. We have seen situations whereby these relevant government agencies have warned ahead of time. We're talking about agencies like NIMET and the like agencies. Why is it so difficult for people to prepare ahead of time, even after these warnings are issued?
Well, I think it's not as if people sometimes don't prepare themselves ahead of time. Take, for example, the government of Bayelsa State has changed our school calendar. That itself is in preparation for floods. So the schools in Bayelsa had already proceeded on holidays before this flood came, and they are supposed to return back to school sometime at the end of November. That's the new calendar that Bayelsa State government has been running because of this expectation of flood. Also, the government has made it a routine service to see that before the floods actually arrive, you start opening drains and water channels so that there will be a lot more free flow of water. But the totality of it is that what you expect and what you get may be more than what you expected and what you prepared for. Certainly, management of natural disasters in terms of water is beyond the funding of a state. And so no matter how prepared a state could be, it may not have the funding capacity, to put the issues that may remedy the situation. Take, for example, you want to build a dam, and a state actually build a dam, that can remedy this situation. It is quite a huge project, and it is difficult for a state to fund it. So that is where maybe a state now falls back at federal, that has capacity to mobilize more funds, to be able to do things like that. We also have issues of siltation of our rivers, channels, even the ocean is silting. These are issues beyond the capacity of a state, where the federal government and other environmental organizations are expected to play a key role in remedying the situation. If this does not happen, you can never imagine how a state can get so prepared that even the unexpected situation, you can be able to handle it. It is not.
In your own opinion, what would you say is the permanent solution to this kind of disaster?
A natural disaster is difficult for you to claim that this is a final solution, this is a best solution. But of course, recommendations are recommendations. If they are followed through, it can salvage a situation. Take, for example, we need dams to be able to control this overflow of the waters, at this season. Maybe some 3-4 dams can salvage the situation. The federal government needs to, as a matter of urgency, particularly at this time when the budget is before the National Assembly, the federal government needs a review of the budget to take care of some of these issues that are burning, issues in the nation for now. Take, for example, we are talking about shelters. Do we have shelters in this country? No. Because in anticipation of this flood, we would have lifted people from their places of original abode to high grounds where shelters are already provided for the people to move to. That has never been done in this country.
Why is that? Why would you say that is?
Yeah, because it's not available. So you are leaving the people for self-help, where if you are unable to help yourself, you are drowned. Just yesterday, somebody drowned in my local government headquarters. An elderly person drowned in my local government headquarters. These are the issues. But if there were shelters provided by government at high grounds, maybe as the water is overtaking settlements, you move the people either through helicopters, through boats, any available means that you can evacuate the people before it overwhelms the people. They will now be resettled in those shelters in high grounds. That will save the situation. That makes it even easier for you to manage, the IDPs that you are going to put in those shelters.
Honorable, from what you said, the government has a role to play in this situation. But from the Minister of Water Resources statement in his last appearance before the Senate Committee on Water Resources, he says that this is an act of God, according to him, and nobody should be held accountable when it comes to asking questions from government. Do you agree with this?
You know that the Senate Committee did not agree with him, and so I couldn't have, agreed with him in any way, because God has created us as human beings, giving us knowledge to deal with situation. And so, if you have a challenge, you don't need to wait on God to come and solve the problem. You use the intelligence that God has given to you to deal with the situation. And that is why people are making these recommendations. What are the recommendations? Dike the rivers, establish dams, desilt the rivers, clear drains, and all that. It is because of the knowledge God has given to us that these recommendations are being made. And they are made in such a way that if you carry out some of these, it will not totally cure the situation, but it will reduce the impact that it will have on the people. That's the essence of life, So because you find yourself in an helpless situation, if you don't help yourself, it will consume you. But if you help yourself, you might be able to even conquer the situation. So what we are talking about is using the situation, your mental capacity to think through, to help the situation, so that you will not be overtaken by that challenge that we are. There is no way that you take a number of these measures that it will not reduce the impact of this flood on our communities. And that's the truth of the matter. So it's wrong for any minister to just feel that it's natural, and so you allow the natural cause to take itself. I mean, I don't think that that is the right assertion to make.
All right, let's talk about oil theft in your region, which seems to be the biggest headache of the federal government at the moment, including security agencies. Who, in your opinion, should be held responsible for the increase of this economic sabotage?
Again, is the government. Because for you to access the oil facilities needs protection, needs cover-up, needs knowledge. And then it has to do with huge funding. Those of us from the Niger Delta, those of us from the locality, one, don't have the government contact, don't have the knowledge, don't also have the funds. We don't have the security cover. And so the totality of oil theft you are seeing comes from the center, where the conglomerate of all these issues I've talked about resides. So one person has the capacity to take the security cover, take the government cover, provide the funding to be able to, and then the expertise to be able to even tap a point into an active pipeline. Active pipeline is very dangerous for you to create an impact on an active pipeline. So you must have that expertise and knowledge to be able to do that. And of course, look at some of the discoveries and disclosures that are happening. Some of these lines are run to the IOC's facility where they load this crude and take it away. Can an ordinary man like me or by people in the Niger Delta and the villages do that? No. Certainly, there are big wigs behind this who are facilitating it, who are the sponsors of it, who ensures that they make more money at the expense of their nation. And once you want to be richer than your nation, certainly the nation will suffer. And that is what Nigeria is suffering. That is even what the Niger Delta is suffering. That's what the oil-producing communities are suffering.
Why is it so difficult to identify? Because even the government itself is admitting that this is also interfering in its own affairs. Why is it so difficult? Since it's an organized crime, it seems to be an organized crime. Why is it so difficult to name people and, you know, let them face the wrath of the law?
It's difficult when your fingers are also soiled. Let me give you an example. Before this government came in, they were accusing the previous PDP government that the PDP government was hiding sponsors of terrorism. This government has been in office for 7 years. Where are the sponsors of terrorism? You know, where are the sponsors of terrorism? It's like a thief is in custody of a property and the property is missing or diminishing. Maybe the thief is the one who will even shout louder. Say, oh, this thing you gave to me is missing, it's diminishing. What is going on? Who is, you know, to placate that he does not know why this is happening. This is what Nigeria is. Those who are involved are at the corridors of power. And when those at the helm of affairs knows that they are part of this situation, they will not name names. They will not name names. And that's why some of our brothers who are now, you know, exposing what is going on, appealing to, please tell your people to stop this, to stop that. It will get to a point we are going to name names. Yes. People know some of these names.
Let's talk politics. Your party is still battling with internal crisis with the elections just 4 months away. And are you not worried that this may also affect your chances in the ballot?
Extremely worried, very, very worried. But again, after primaries, these are usual challenges that are faced by all parties. It's not peculiar with my party alone. You know, almost all the parties are facing one kind of challenge or the other as post-primary issues. Like you said, one is deeply worried because this is an election that the PDP need to win to salvage Nigeria from the misrule of the APC. And if we are not focused on that, then of course, what will be the situation of our people?
The Constitution review seems to be suffering a hitch, a setback, because of the reluctance of the state assemblies to actually consider the 44 bills forwarded to them by the National Assembly. Do you agree with the instance of the Conference of Speakers for some specific bills to be included in as conditions for until they consider this Constitution review? According to what the speaker said, he asked the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission to make public what their take-home is. Is there any work in that regard?
Yeah, I think it's not about a plan. It's something that a parliament has always, you know, taken as a responsibility, both as individual legislators and in our collectivity. In several assemblies, be it previous, be it present. I know of a situation where I have even spoken about it on live television. I know of a situation where my colleague in this assembly has even showed to the world his alert in his phone that this is what I take home, you know, and the parliament has formed different platforms to also enlighten the people. The unfortunate situation is that nobody seems to agree. Nobody seems to believe. Nobody seems to, you know, understand that this is the true situation. I had even had cause to say the parliament is underfunded. And I was challenged by the moderator, how? Can you prove it? I said, yes. And I'm ready to go ahead, you know. and all that. So the Speaker, in furtherance of this disbelief, is what is making the Speaker now engage Ramfak to say, make public, let the whole world know that this is what, since they don't believe the different platforms that we are using, and you are the one who, and I know, I will also say that Ramfak, in one or two occasions, have also come out to say, this is the situation. Except there are other things happening that they don't know. As far as they are concerned, this is the legitimate situation. And yet people will sit in front of camera and begin to say, oh, professor is paid 400,000 and legislators are paid 45 million monthly. And nobody even asks, as a moderator, this your claim, can you verify it? Can you substantiate it if you are so challenged? No. And that is the worry, we have as legislators. That's the worry. I know that even civil societies have taken time to educate the public over the true situation. In this situation, they don't even want to believe the civil societies. In other things, they will claim, oh, civil society, do it for us. In this situation, they seem not to even believe the civil societies. So where do we stand? So I think that the Speaker is just taking further steps, not as if these steps have not been taken before, but I commend him for taking these further steps. And we'll keep emphasizing, we are very troubled, we are pained, we are worried, because you can be so misinterpreted and people will visit that anger on you innocently, because we have a vulnerable society.